Well, hello there. It is May 1st, and we're still out here working on this upholstery stuff. I have to say, this upholstery stuff is kicking my ass. There's something I drew up. That's what I was gonna make the backboard of the upper cushion out of this piece of plywood, but I've since changed my mind. I'm going to use a thinner material. This is 3/4 inch plywood. I'm going to use 1/2 inch. I also discovered that I have a half a sheet of 1/2 inch plywood, so that's what I'm going to use. In the meantime, I'm trying to create something here that I can give to the upholstery guy to illustrate what we're looking for, what I'm looking for in the way of a seat. How high, what shape, all that other stuff. Like I said, here you see the cover, the cushion here is all drawn out. 2.5 inch pleats, 4 inch bolster around the edge, But it's not simply that easy. There's a shape for the cushion and there's angles everywhere. So a couple of days ago, and for probably a whole day, you see this doesn't look like it was done in 5 minutes, does it? I created a cardboard mock-up of a cushion here on this piece of wood, this bench. Looked real good. I mean, I had the, is this the top? No, it's not the top. Oh, I think the top's in the back of the truck there. Had the cushion all drawn out like I have there on that piece of plywood. Took it over here and I put it in the truck. And it didn't look worth the shit. All the angles. The front angle was straight up and down, which looked kind of odd. The sides, that what you're looking at here, the part that faces you when you open the door, this side was leaning in, the other side was leaning out. It's like, geez, it was worthless. It was worthless. I couldn't use it as an example at all. So I talked to Scott, and Scott came up with some ideas like these little, he was saying I could make this kind of stuff, but make it out of cardboard, inside the outside pieces. And make all these little ribs out of cardboard. I thought about it. This was the end of the day yesterday. I mean, I had that seat, like I said, it was all together. You can see I tore it all apart this morning. I had all these I never throw plywood away. When I'm done with it, I save all the little pieces for this very reason. A lot of times, all you need is a little piece of plywood. So I got, quite a little batch of these smaller pieces of plywood underneath the house in a storage area, like a little warehouse type area that I created under the house. So when it was time to do this, rather than do it all out of cardboard pieces where you're trying to tape everything and it's not very secure or whatever else, I decided to go this route. I can make the little pieces the angles I want. I can screw them down to the base. First thing I did was put the little pegs in the base so the base is secured. It goes down on the seat riser and is located by these two little pegs. Worked a good part of the day, which you see there, and at this point I'm ready to take that out, put it on the bench here, and cover it with the cardboard. Because now I have essentially, other than the top, now I have enough of a skeleton there to make a cover for it, I believe. So here goes. That's what I'm going to try and do right now. I'll show you the outcome of that. I'm not going to set up a tripod. It would take forever. I'm not going to set up a tripod and show you covering the ribs. Like I said, seems like it would take forever and be boring as hell. So I'll show you when it's done. Okay, well, about something like 3 hours later, There it is. There's as far as I got tonight anyway. I'm gonna pick up on this tomorrow. What you're looking at here is the back, and the open side is the top. So, like I said, this is the back. I have to do the corner on the front because the corner is round. So what I did is just left it open. For now, I'll make the top, and that'll give me the radius that I need. I'm going to put this in there, and I'll show you what it looks like in place. Hopefully, it fits. Like I say, there's the petitions that I made, the little skeleton that I made, so I could fasten the cardboard. Anyway, I'll put it in, and you can see what it looks like. Actually, seems to fit pretty well so far. Got the taper we were looking for on the front. It's out a little further at the top than it is at the bottom, like a ½ inch. Got the angles coming out here, so it pretty much matches the door jamb there. You see that piece of steel, that gray piece of steel, the angle's about the same as that. And you see it pretty much matches the, well, that's nothing there. The supports for the back of the seat, not the cushion. So there you go. Tomorrow I'll make the top, and I'll do these corners. And we'll see how it looks. I'll show you more tomorrow. Later. Hello there. Welcome back to Blue Heinz Garage. Today is Monday, May 13th. We've been making some pretty steady progress here, I guess. I had Napoleon here over the weekend, the upholstery guy. He did come down and look at this Saturday, and we talked about it. He saw the seat that I've gotten done here, and I had a whole bunch. There's the profile of the seat back. It's 3 inches thick. And the design of it there. He looked at all of that. I showed him what we have in mind as far as door panel design. You can see there's a bolster across this top. There's a bolster down both sides. There's a pocket, and one of those expandable, elastic top pockets that's going to be on the door panel. You see there's carpet along the bottom edge, goes up to the firewall. The carpet goes up to the firewall. But anyway, we talked about all of that. I'm going to make a panel to go up here. He's going to upholster that panel, that header panel. I have wood made for that, but I like the idea of the upholstered header panel. It's a lot cleaner and neater looking than some wood pieces. So anyway, that's where we're at right now. I cleaned up a lot of stuff out of here today. You see we had some chrome pieces stripped because they're going to get painted, including the dash rail. You see it there, a lot copper looking dirty. I mean, that's what it looks like when they strip it. They strip it down to the copper. And almost most of the wood and the saw and all the woodworking stuff is gone out of here now. So we're about at the end of the upholstery prep, I think. I've got to put a little design on a couple, draw some design on a couple of pieces. Napoleon's going to get back to me in a couple of weeks. He needs some time to catch up. So we'll go from there. In the meantime, I'm going to work on fabricating that panel. I did find those pieces up here on the top. There's a little strip of wood that goes there. so that when you put the door bumper in here, it hits that piece of wood and keeps the door from rattling. I found those. They were missing. They're right there. I've got both of them, so I can put those up in there. I'm working on. This is a problem. This metal right here is a problem. Remember, I smoothed this out. I extended this because it was too short. The metal wasn't hitting it where you put the nails. What I have learned actually over this weekend, we're trying to figure out how you cover this roof, because this didn't have a roof when I got it. It had the wood, but not the roof. And when you put the fabric up here, you run the fabric down, you nail it here, and then you put a piece of it. Well, actually, it's supposed to get a gutter that goes across the top of the door. And then, like, from here all the way around to the other side and all around the front, from the door all around the front, there's a piece that goes on there that covers all the nails, so you don't see the nails. It's called Hidem, Hidem. And the stuff they sell, at least the stuff the Model A places sell, is very narrow. It's about as wide as that lower piece of wood there. So as you see, that lower piece of wood there, if you put the Hidem in line with that piece of wood, it's not going to cover these nails. And I learned that this weekend. I put a post on Ford Barn, and one of the people answering the post said, you know, that the 28, 29, he even said 30, I think, pickups and the AA, the bigger trucks, those nails are exposed. Because evidently it was a commercial vehicle. Ford didn't think it was that important that those nails were showing. So what I'm going to have to do there is some kind of modification. I might end up extending the metal a little higher, so the nails would go up under the fabric, and then obviously I'd have to provide some openings in the metal where the nails do go, for the fabric and the Hidem to be nailed through that, you know, through the sheet metal. Make some holes in the metal so that the nails can happen there, and then the Hidem would cover the holes and the nails. So I'm gonna have to do some kind of modification. We'll have to figure that out, so that will work. Actually, the whole top is that same height. Oh, that makes it a lot more difficult. I don't know what we're going to do there, but we'll look at doing something there. That's interesting. Huh. Anyway, that's where we're at. Good morning. Welcome back to Blue Heinz Garage. Today is May 17th, Friday. And I'm working on this some more. You notice the seat's out. The mock-up seat is out. And a couple of the roof ribs are out. Visor is off. I'm working on, and I'll show you as much as I can here, this header here. I have wood made to cover this, and I have decided that I don't like the way the wood, the covering that goes here. It's too bulky and you might say primitive. While this truck is less than modern, the wood that I created for that earlier, when I did the rest of this wood, is a little too bulky and primitive looking. I mean, that the style of this truck has changed a lot since then. At the point I made that wood, this truck was only going to get primer. Now it's getting a full paint. It's getting a way nicer interior. I think I was planning on Mexican blanket or something like that before. So I want to make a header piece, like a door panel piece, to go up here and have it covered with the vinyl, the same vinyl that's going to be used on the seat. I'm in the process of creating the necessary supports for that upholstered panel, and I want to, you see the big void that's here. This is This is the inside piece of the actual windshield hinge that's attached to that windshield header. And I want to fill this void. So I'm making a piece of sheet metal right now that goes from here down and just goes under the bottom of this hinge piece, just to finish that off. And then the sheet metal, the door panel piece, will come down to the bottom of this sheet metal where it has a corner and it angles. This is at an angle. It's not flat. It's not level. So the vinyl piece will go from this top edge to where this sheet metal turns and angles to match this. I'll try and show you some more of that. I'll put the tripod up here and show you some of that as I'm making this sheet, as I'm creating this sheet metal piece. I have it preliminary cut to go across from a hunk of metal that I had, and I put a bend in it, probably more than 45 degrees, probably a 60-degree bend in it to try and match this angle here. And I'll show you more of that as it progresses. Okay, for starters, what I'm going to do is take that windshield hinge piece down. Yesterday what I did is I made some fasteners to replace there's 6 screws and nuts going across this hinge, fastening it to the actual windshield header with nuts on the top, like I say. So what I did yesterday is I took some 1/4-inch steel and made some pieces that were like 1.5 inches long and 1/2 inch wide, and I drilled and tapped them and I glued them in there right where all the screws are. I glued one of those things like a captive nut, only it's a rectangular piece, 1/2 by 1.5 inches by 1/4 inch thick, threaded. So right everywhere there's a screw now, there's one of those rectangular pieces glued in there. So I can take the screws out. The tapped steel piece will remain in there right where the screw needs to go, and the adjustment and everything for the windshield hinge, so it stays where it needs to be. So it's all placed now, it's all located now. So I'm going to take this hinge piece down, and then I'm going to start fitting the sheet metal piece that I need to make here to close up this, to finish this area. I'm going to put you on time lapse so you don't have to sit through all this slow motion stuff. Okay, well there's the windshield hinge. See, the windshield goes right in this little area right here. It slides in there, interfaces with that. And see if I can show you. There's the one of those little pieces I made. See, they go all the way across inside there. There's 6 of them in there. So they're glued there so that when you take the screws out, they stay there, and you can put the screws back in without having to reach in there. When I put the sheet metal up here and the panel, it's going to be much harder to access anything here. See what I did there when I glued those pieces in? I removed the metal screws that had the nuts attached to them, and I made those pieces when threaded them, and then I used, I think they're nylon screws to hold the glued pieces while the glue dried, in an effort to, I didn't want, if any glue got on the steel screw when I glued the piece in, it would have locked the screw, so I couldn't get it back out. So I used the nylon, and sure enough, they all came out. Some of them came out a little harder than others, so I think the glue may have tried to stick them, but it, obviously didn't work. Okay, the windshield has these little trim pieces on each side. I need to remove those because I need to whittle a little bit off the end of those too for the for the piece that I'm adding. This is an intricate little piece. See the way it's all bent, and it's a real pain in the ass to get on and off. I have to trim the top of it off right here because the sheet metal that I'm making is gonna conflict with this. So this top of this has to go away. Okay, so I don't know if you can tell in this picture, but the left hand, the two sides of this frame, this tubular frame here, it matches the angle of the A pillar. It's at an angle. It gets bigger as it goes towards the top. It's not plumb. It's not square. So I have to duplicate that on this trim piece. And so here's the layout for that. Making this header piece, this header trim piece up here. See the sheet metal piece there with the tape on the edges? Which meant taking the steering wheel out again, taking the windshield out again, the windshield hinge is off, wipers are out, there's all kinds of stuff. Some of the top bows are off. Anyway, show you what I did yesterday. The piece that I'm using, I got a piece of metal. I've got, I'm trying to use metal that I have here. Piece of metal that I had was not quite long enough to reach all the way across, so I made the center section, and now I'm making the two end pieces. So I made this piece yesterday. See how this wraps around here? The lighting is bad here. Wraps around here and kind of finishes off that side. I'm going to cut this out where you see, so I have access to the header there for my wiring to go around. It comes up the post and it goes over to the console. It goes to the wipers and the speakers and all the stuff on the top. The dome light is for a Model A. There's a lot of stuff going up to the top in this vehicle. Anyway, so today I'm going to work on. I made this piece yesterday. Scott came and put some tacks. We didn't do full seam welds. You see, there's a seam here and a seam here, and obviously it turns and goes down. He put some tacks in there and I ground it yesterday afternoon. He did that after work yesterday. I'm going to try and fabricate this side. This is what I started with. So there you see that piece goes over the top, comes down, runs underneath. I put a Cleco in it that went in here. Because once this piece of sheet metal is installed, it's doing two things. Its purpose is twofold. It finishes the bottom here because the hinge, the windshield hinge only comes down this far. It leaves this big gap underneath. And then it's got a big opening here, and then it finishes at the bottom. So it's kind of ugly. This closes all of that off. So it does that. It trims it. It makes it nicer looking. And it's going to give me access to, I'm going to continue this up to the top, and that'll give me a place where I can put a little clip to put like a door panel. I'm going to upholster this header. So I need to make a back piece and then have that back piece upholstered, and I need a way to fasten it. So with the sheet metal up here, it gives me places to put clips. I'm going to put a clip down at the bottom here, one here, one here. I'll probably use two on each side down here, and maybe two on each side at the top. The same on the other side. And then the mirror will attach to the metal in the middle. The rear view mirror will attach to the metal in the center under the console. So this little piece does a multiple. It satisfies multiple things. But it's a bit of a chore to build it because there's all angles. This is at an angle. It's not straight. This is at an angle going down. Like I said, there's a lot of angles to deal with. Makes it a little more difficult than just square edges and joints and, you know, stuff like that. Anyway, here we go. Okay, well, about 3.5 hours later, there's what that corner looks like. This is just an instruction for welding because this piece of metal's got a little crown in it right here. You need to push on it when he tacks it to the other piece so they're flush. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Blue Heinz Garage. Today is Sunday, May 26th. I think we're going to try and... I've finally finished making all this sheet metal for this windshield header. It's kind of a trim piece, backing piece for a upholstered panel that's going to go there. You see, it's even further apart than the last segment I showed you. Because I've been standing up in here and working in there. So today, the plan is to finally glue all this stuff. I'm using panel adhesive again to fasten this sheet metal to the tubing that is behind it. So that's what I'm in the course of doing right now. When you do this gluing, it's kind of like pouring concrete. When you're doing this gluing thing, you got to make the pieces. I mean, it's a multiple steps. You got to fabricate all the pieces. Prepare everything. The tubing that you see, the tubing here is been there for a long time. It's a bit corroded from moisture in the air because it's bare steel. So the first thing you got to do is clean all the steel, both sides of both pieces. You're supposed to scratch it with a 36 grit, 40 grit somewhere. You know, give it a tooth so it's all ready to bond nicely with the adhesive. And then you have to create something to clamp it. I mean, this is sheet metal. It's 20 gauge sheet metal. So from one end to the one cleco to the next cleco, you need to clamp that because it's sheet metal. It's not going to clamp itself if you do those two locations. So here's what I'm starting to do here. I'm setting up. I'm going to put a piece of square tubing across that, and I'm setting this stuff up so I can lay the tubing in there while I'm putting the sheet metal up. I mean, all this, you've got an open time on the adhesive too. I believe this one's a little long. It's 40 minutes, but nonetheless, it starts drying in the tube if you aren't fast in the tip of the tube if you aren't fast enough. So the next thing you got to do after you make everything and prepare everything is figure out the clamping sequence you're going to use and make sure you have all the parts and pieces that are necessary to do that ready so you don't exceed the 40-minute open time. So I'm putting a piece of wood across the top here, one like that on the other side. I'm going to put a small piece of wood here in the middle of each of these, and then the tubing across the bottom, the long piece, the long straight piece, the tubing across the bottom. Like I said, I'm going to lay the tubing across this because it's longer than the width of the cab. It's just a piece of material that I have. Here it is. Piece of material I have laying around that'll work. So that I clamp all the way across. There's a piece of tubing, 3/4 tubing like that top one, running right at this level, right through here. So that's where I'm going to glue there in the top, and where you see the double clecos, there's vertical there and a vertical on the other double cleco and a vertical on the edges. Here we go. I'll try and show you some of this as I'm doing it. Okay, here's a little time lapse of some physical labor. Well, I have to say, that took less than 10 minutes. I'm surprised. Seemed like it took a lot longer. Okay, well, that's how I'm going to clamp it once I get it once I get the glue spread on it. So you see, you got to mock up this stuff, make sure you got all the clamps you need, everything's going to work. So that's what I was trying to explain to you. That's what I have in mind. So let's see how that works. I got to take this apart now, clean the metal, both sides, prep the metal, clean it with wax and grease remover, and mark. Actually, I'm going to glue the tubing, I think, because I know that's where everything goes. Not the sheet metal. Usually I glue the sheet metal. Anyway, we'll see how that goes. Okay, well, there it is, all prepped for the panel adhesive. Cleaned and scratched. I got to put the wax and grease remover on it, and then I can glue it and clamp it. Like Jed, clamp it. And there's the inside of the sheet metal piece. Like the same thing, all scratched and, cleaned and scratched. That piece there is the mount for the threaded piece that holds the screws for the rearview mirror. It's going to hang on there. Okay. Well, like I said, it's just like pouring concrete. All this preliminary work, and then 15 minutes and it looks like that. It's done. You think it's going to go anywhere? I just counted. There's 16 clamps, counting these that are holding up the tube before the tube got clamped in. There's 6 right there alone between the hinge and all the rest of the stuff. The tube wasn't quite long enough to reach the 2 clamps. I had to clamp some material to it. Anyway, it's there and it's done, hopefully. I'll show you what that looks like once I uncork it, once I take the clamps off. It's supposedly 4 hours you can take the clamps off, and it's 2 o'clock right now. Well, it was 2 o'clock when I clamped it for the most part. So 6 o'clock I can remove the clamps. I'm not going to do it that soon. I'll wait till tomorrow probably. Anyway, see you later. Bye. Okay, well, the next day, there it is. All the clamps are gone, all the supporting stuff is gone, and it's solid, very solid. It doesn't move at all. That'll definitely hold that upholstery panel up there, and it kind of cleans up the edges, the bottom. It'll look a lot better when it's finished than it would have looked before. So, okay, hello there. Welcome back to Blue Hind's Garage. Well, I've been working on this last couple of days, and I made some decent progress. Got the mirror installed on this side, the rear view mirror. I had to drill a couple of holes in the A-pillar there. Made a little plate, a little bigger than the dimension between those 2 screws, and threaded it, so that's gonna get fastened inside the A-pillar to mount the mirror to. Obviously, the screws will thread into it. The other side has D-nuts from the factory. See, there's one of them right there. The one that was here, the thread was stripped, and I had bought 2. I was going to use them on the other side. Instead of doing the D-nuts on the other side, like I just said, I made that threaded 1/4-inch thick piece, and going to fasten that. You can see the tape in there. See the tape there? That's what I put in there to hold it while I started the first bolt. Anyway, this side, one of the D-nuts was stripped, and they were a different thread. That's 5/16 24. This one was 5/16 18. So I drilled out the D-nuts, both of them, and knocked them out of there. And I'm going to have Scott tack them in. Either that or I'll use the panel adhesive and glue them in. So those are ready now for the mirror on this side. This was all puckered too. I guess when they put them in there somehow or other, I don't know how they do it. They must press them or do something. And they had little bulges there, so the mirror never did sit flat. It was sticking out. The base was sticking out away from the pillar. And then over here, if you see the gas pedal mount right there, see that piece right there where it's all shiny? The gas pedal was just, the camera's having a hard time focusing. The gas pedal was just fastened there temporarily with some self-tapping screws, which obviously went through the firewall. Well, we don't want to see fasteners on the other side of the firewall, on the engine side of the firewall, so that was temporary. What I did there was made a base plate. The piece that's chrome, the shiny piece, it comes with the pedal assembly. I made a piece that go right behind it, the same shape as it is. Again, 1/4 inch thick and threaded, 1032 thread. So I will weld the little piece that I made to the inside of the firewall. You won't see any fasteners on either side. Weld that to the inside of the firewall, fill the holes that used to be the self-tapping screws on the other side of the firewall, put some studs in those threaded holes that I made, and use acorn nuts on this side to fasten the throttle pedal. So again, that's another fabrication. And the last thing I got done is this. I made a pattern for the backer board. You know, this is going to get upholstered, so you got to make a backer board for that upholstery. So I made a pattern for that backer board. So, and then this morning I went and see Napoleon and got myself a nice piece of backer board that's long enough to go all the way across there, and I'll put the pattern here and cut this out and drill the holes for the little clips, and we'll have that done. But not today. That's going to happen tomorrow. Right now it is 4:30. So I'm done for today. But anyway, that's what's been happening around here the last few days. Have made some progress. Talk to you later. Thanks for watching. Bye.